Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's just admit it, adding new life to your aquarium is hands down the absolute most exciting part of the hobby. But underneath all that excitement, there's actually an invisible, highly contagious risk that can literally wipe out years of your hard work in just a matter of days. So today, we're going to explore the absolute necessity of quarantine. We'll break down the biology of aquatic pathogens and show you how this one simple practice is basically the ultimate shield for protecting your tank from disease. Picture this. You just unboxed a new delivery, or maybe you just got back from the local fish store, and the fish you bought looks incredibly vibrant and perfectly healthy. It is so tempting to just acclimate it and drop it straight into your display tank, right? Well, that healthy exterior can totally be a Trojan horse. You see, the whole process of being netted, bagged, and shipped causes a massive spike in a fish's stress hormones. All that transit stress severely lowers their immune system, so parasites or pathogens that were previously dormant or that the fish was fighting off naturally suddenly get a chance to take over. And because a parasite's life cycle takes time to actually show up visually, that brand new fish can carry hidden threats that won't show a single physical symptom for days or even weeks. So here is our blueprint for today's explainer. First, the hidden hitchhiker threat. Second, protecting your established ecosystem. Third, what actually needs quarantining. Fourth, early detection saves lives. And finally, number 5, a simple, effective setup. All right, let's dive right into section 1, the hidden hitchhiker threat. Those invisible enemies hiding in plain sight. A totally devastating tank outbreak almost always begins with just a single unnoticed organism. The most common things you have to watch out for are highly contagious parasites like itch and flukes, or really stealthy bacterial infections that go after the fins and skin. To really wrap your head around the scale of this threat, we have to look at how incredibly fast these pathogens reproduce. Take a single itch parasite, for example. It can drop off a host fish, encyst on the bottom of a tank, and multiply into hundreds of new free-swimming parasites in just 48 hours. By using a quarantine tank, you guarantee that when that single parasite starts to multiply, its catastrophic impact is strictly contained to a separate, controlled environment, rather than spreading like wildfire through your whole collection. Moving on to section 2, protecting your established ecosystem. Think of this as your non-negotiable security checkpoint. Quarantine basically works by completely separating two totally different biological environments. You have the unknown and the known. In your established main tank, your fish have been living together for months, maybe even years. They've built up a localized immunity to the specific microfauna and baseline bacteria in that exact body of water. They are a stable, known ecosystem. But a new arrival, that represents the unknown. It could be carrying foreign bacterial strains or exotic parasites that your established fish have absolutely zero biological defenses against. So quarantine acts as that critical barrier between these two worlds. It isolates the unknown until you can definitively confirm it's safe to merge into your established ecosystem. Now, treating a display tank for a disease outbreak is an absolute nightmare, and it honestly often causes more harm than the disease itself. If you're forced to use heavy medications in a main tank, the collateral damage is just massive. Copper-based medications, for example, will fatally poison invertebrates like shrimp, snails, and corals, and it can even permanently leach into the glass's silicone sealant. Or, if you use broad-spectrum antibiotics, you'll completely crash your biological filter, wiping out all that beneficial nitrifying bacteria and causing a lethal ammonia spike. But treating in a quarantine tank, that completely bypasses the whole disaster. You get a controlled, isolated space where you can medicate aggressively if you need to, without ever sacrificing your main tank's biological stability. Which brings us to section 3, what actually needs quarantining? And spoiler alert, it's a lot more than just fish. If you want a truly comprehensive defense strategy, you have to look beyond just the fish themselves. Disease vectors are pretty much evenly split across the board. Invertebrates, live plants, and even damp equipment that moves between systems, they are all potential carriers. Because here's the thing, pathogens don't just swim freely in the water. They have really complex life cycles. The encysted stage of many parasites, which is known as a tomont, will readily attach itself to hard surfaces, like plant leaves, driftwood, or even snail shells. So a plant pulled from an infected tank and moved straight to your display can easily carry dormant parasite cysts, or even pest snail eggs, hidden right in its roots. You have to treat literally every single wet item as a potential vector. Now, the industry standard among advanced aquarists is to quarantine all new arrivals for several weeks, usually a minimum of 4 to 6. And there is a very specific biological reason for this time frame. It ensures that you cover the entire life cycle of the most common marine and freshwater parasites. A lot of these pathogens spend weeks in a dormant, encysted stage, where they are completely immune to medications and totally invisible to the naked eye. Waiting 4 to 6 weeks guarantees that any hidden cysts will eventually hatch into their free-swimming stage. That allows you to actually see the infection and treat it effectively well before that specimen ever touches your main display. Okay, let's hit section 4. Early detection saves lives, where observation becomes your ultimate superpower. Having a stress-free, bare-bottom quarantine environment gives you an amazing superpower: intense observation. Without all those dense decorations and hiding spots you have in a display tank, you can really play detective and scrutinize the animal's behavior. One huge behavioral warning sign you want to watch for is called flashing. This is when a fish repeatedly darts and rubs its body against the floor or equipment. While it might just look like a quirky swimming pattern to a beginner, flashing is actually a physiological response to extreme discomfort. Microscopic parasites often target the highly oxygenated, soft tissue of a fish's gills first. That makes it incredibly hard for the fish to breathe, triggering this intense scratching instinct to relieve the physical irritation. Catching these early warning signs is vital because, like we talked about, aquatic diseases compound so rapidly. These symptoms generally fall into 2 categories. First, you have signs of systemic stress, things like lethargy, clamped fins, heavy breathing, or just a total refusal to eat. When a fish acts like this, it basically means its immune system is crashing. Second, you have the visual indicators: cloudy eyes, white spots, or fuzzy growths. And these are very often secondary bacterial or fungal infections taking advantage of the fish's weakened state. By observing the fish in isolation, you can spot these subtle behavioral shifts on day 1, which dramatically increases their survival rate and entirely prevents a compounding disaster in your main tank. Finally, section 5, a simple, effective setup. Remember, we are aiming for consistency over complexity here. Setting this up does not require an expensive, highly complex system. You just need consistency. The most ideal approach is to use a basic, bare glass tank with appropriate filtration. And in this context, appropriate filtration just means a simple sponge filter that you've pre-seeded with beneficial bacteria directly from your main tank. You want to absolutely avoid chemical filtration like activated carbon because it'll just absorb and neutralize any medications you might need to use. Secondly, strictly dedicate separate equipment. Get a totally different set of nets, siphons, and even towels specifically for the quarantine tank. This completely eliminates the risk of cross-contamination from wet surfaces. Also, maintaining pristine water quality in this setup is absolutely crucial. Because a quarantine setup is usually a bare-bottom tank, it completely lacks that massive biological filter naturally found in the substrate of a heavily scaped display. Without all that surface area for nitrifying bacteria, ammonia spikes happen much, much faster. So rigorous water testing and waste management are non-negotiable. Poor water conditions will instantly weaken the fish, and get this: ammonia toxicity actually causes chemical burns that completely mimic the symptoms of advanced bacterial infections. If your water quality slips, you literally won't be able to tell if the fish is actually sick or just suffering from the toxic environment it's stuck in. To wrap things up, I think this quote perfectly nails it. Quarantine isn't just about treatment, it's about prevention. Playing doctor to a bunch of sick, dying fish in a fully stocked display tank is incredibly difficult, highly stressful, and super expensive. Creating a stable, isolated observation environment to prevent those outbreaks from ever happening in the first place, that is the true mark of a successful aquarist. You are putting a system in place that protects your time, your hard-earned money, and most importantly, the lives of the animals already thriving in your care. So, before you go out and introduce that next stunning purchase, ask yourself, is skipping a few weeks of observation really worth risking your entire perfectly balanced ecosystem? Will you leave your tank's health up to a coin toss? Protect your investment, secure your display, and practice a little patience. Keep learning, keep observing, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.